Hello, everyone. We are live. I believe we're live. I believe audio is happening as well. I hope everyone is doing. We do have a little bit of a switch up. Apparently, Latia is me and I am Latia.
Oh
So
no.
it's fixed. Everything's okay now. How'd that feel to be me for about a half split second?
Oh man, I was so tall.
Yeah, that's true. Much taller than you probably want to be. Like, yeah,
I mean, I wouldn't know. Like, is it being like, do you hit your head on things or
yeah,
like,
yeah.
okay, then no,
Especially now
I'm
without the
fine.
hair. The hair used to warn me. It's like danger. And then
I
you
think
rapidly find out like, oh, there's no warning signs now.
that's what mine does. So my bun adds like another 6 inches on top of my already like 5'6" self. So it's like I don't know how to deal with the extra height. I'm always hitting my head on things.
That's fair. That's valid. Airplanes are kind of a nightmare, so I will say that. So we're here today, hanging out. We were talking beforehand. I had not seen you since the beginning of the pandemic. I got to see you at
Correct.
C2E2. I've missed you. You've been up to
I've
stuff.
missed you.
I've
We had a brief get together when I traveled to Seattle for reasons, but that was nowhere near enough and it was snowing. So
yeah. That one time it snows in Seattle.
in
So
Seattle, I
uh,
brought it with me from Chicago.
oh, that's right. I think I did actually blame you for it.
Yes.
Yes. What? So you got a character in Idol Champions.
I
What?
guess I do.
What does this feel like for you?
It's surreal is what it is. I mean even like I've never thought that I would be in a video game ever, even an idle clicky game that I enjoy so much, like even prior to being asked to have our characters in the game, like I have more characters on my phone than I do on Steam. I really like this game and it's really surreal to be able to like poke at myself on the screen.
How did Dahani come about for you?
So, I mean, the story really all starts with C2E2. I was asked to guest on Rivals at C2E2 by Serena, who we all know now works at Critical Role, but she was a former cast member of Rivals. And when it came about that she would be leaving to move across the country, they asked me to stay on as permanent cast member. And I was like, this is everything I've wanted since Rivals started because I've been a fan of Rivals since Stream of Many Eyes. Um, and I was thinking about combinations of classes and characters that I hadn't done before, and my background in D&D is pretty firmly set in Adventurers League, which is organized play, and you can't play Aarakocra in organized play because they have a fly speed at level 1,
Yeah.
which is a whole thing. And I was like, I'm gonna be an Aarakocra. I've never been an Aarakocra before, and I love like a lot of people say that Aarakocra monks are broken, so I'm gonna play a broken character, a broken character. So I've built Tahani, and like every so often around Twitter will circulate this picture of a black and red parrot that just looks like super badass. Like it's got a really dark hooked beak and it's just like super goth looking. And I was like, that's her. That's her.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I do have a dislike for Aarakocra. They are a nightmare. Flying at level 1 is a nightmare. But like you flavored it very differently. But your character is very unique. Your character likes to paint. Is this correct?
Mm-hmm. So I gave her a sort of, I guess, traditional Aarakocra backstory. Like we all know that the Aarakocra have a monastery in Chult called Kier Sabal. And that's where she's from. And I kind of flavored it that like all of the Aarakocra there have various things that they like to do, various, they're the Aarakocra who like keep the monastery. They're the Aarakocra who go out and get food. They're the Aarakocra who do this and that. And she, like me, is not content doing any one thing. So she probably did a whole bunch of it and also kind of like to paint. His Kirsa Ball super up high, so you get like really, I'm sure you get really gorgeous landscapes and things
Right.
like that. So that's kind of where she settled, and she didn't want to stay on Kirsa Ball anymore, so she traveled to the Sword Coast.
Did this character evolve for you as you like started your first episode and then like moved on? Like, did it take some twists and turns?
A little bit. I definitely wanted her to be a badass, as we all do with our characters. But she was caught off guard by the rest of the rivals pretty quickly, and she's just a big old softie. She doesn't fly that often. I'm gonna let everybody who's watching this right now a little secret. She's afraid of heights. So she doesn't fly like that's kind of how I nerfed her as an Aarakocra monk. Like she doesn't get super high with her flight.
Mm-hmm.
Um but yeah, she's afraid of heights.
Do you enjoy playing a monk?
I do. My first Adventures League character was a monk, so it's a class that I enjoy very much.
Is it mainly just the constant punching, or is it the stunning?
You know, I can't quite say because I've played many different kinds of monks, and Kensei is one that I've never played. Like Erica, Dahani is a Kensei monk, which they kind of focus on mastering different kinds of weapons and things like that. And I think um, what I like about being a monk is just like utility. Like
Mm-hmm.
um, I quickly found out that Dahani's place in on the battlefield is crowd control,
Mm-hmm.
especially with her extra speed. She is, you know, punch one enemy, stun it. All right, move on. Punch another enemy, stun it. All right, move on. Like just making sure that the rest of the group can, battle pretty effectively as opposed to punch, 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 punch.
Right. Uh, what what's been like the most dramatic moment for Dahani in Rivals?
Um, there are two, I think. So, end of last campaign, end of last season, it was revealed that Grost, the demon prince, was behind all of the shenanigans that were going on in the season. And so it got to be Dahani's turn, and she whiffed all four of her attacks. Like both action attacks, both flurry of blows attacks. Like my dice were just not behaving with me, and so it was dramatic for all of us in that it allowed one of the other characters to get like that final hit on him, which was like really thematic.
Yeah.
Um, she she got to chase some gargoyles last campaign as well. Like we noticed that these gargoyles were watching us, and they took off, and Dahani was just like, "All right, I got this."
You're kind of in this position of high visibility. What's your advice for people who are want to learn D&D and who, even if it's, do you want to play D&D like off camera or on camera? What's some of the advice that you have for people who are jumping into this? Because there are so many people jumping into D&D now.
There are. Um, find the group that's right for you. I know that that's hard to do when you really don't know what kind of gameplay that you want to do. But if you're just stepping in, also, actually, I'm going to take that back. That's a good point. But what I'm going to say for you is don't be intimidated by all of the other content creators out there, because your interest in D&D has probably sparked from you seeing some sort of live action stream or YouTube video, and production values are all kinds of different qualities and things like that. Don't be intimidated by what you're seeing, because like when you're in front of the camera, that's very much like you're playing D&D, but you're definitely putting on a show.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and like personal table experiences can be absolutely like what you're seeing on screen, but it takes a really good group of people who are all like friendly with each other or who get along with each other, and just kind of be don't let that stop you from wanting to dig deeper into the habit.
Yeah.
The habit. Yeah, it's a habit. D&D is a habit.
Yeah, like I mean, like the one thing that I always enjoyed when I actually get to play was once I got like theater experience. I really enjoyed the acting of things, and I did. But I found out very quickly I don't like necessarily dungeon crawls. They,
Mm-hmm.
they drive me a bit up the wall. and, and I've lost many a character to them because I'll just be impetuous and be like, I press the button, and then I'm like, disintegrate. I'm like, cool, cool, cool. That was fun.
Mm-hmm.
Shelter's rough. Uh,
We all know what you're talking about.
yeah. What do you hope for this character moving forward? Because you saw this character kind of evolve over time, and now is a video game character, which you're gonna have to get used to. Like, where do you see this character going?
Um, there are a couple of things in her past that not necessarily need to be confronted, but I'd like to. She started off as a spy in the Rivals,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, it's been in game, it's been a year or like a year or two since that has happened, but even though they have accepted her pretty well, she still feels like, and that kind of part of her character arc has been resolved. She still has those doubts that one day the Rivals are going to be like, nah, we have decided that we don't like you. Like, you came to us under false pretenses and we don't stand for that. So goodbye. And like
That's
I yeah, it's hard, and I'd like to see her kind of like confront that.
that's like a serious emotion to confront. It's like that feeling of like absolute rejection for who you have been
Yeah.
is a lot to go through. Do you have a favorite role playing moment that you've had with the Rivals?
Oh man. You know what? Last season was full of so many resolutions to things that we have been dealing with for, well, for some of us since the beginning of the campaign. It's not my moment, but Celeste, played by Tanya, realized that her, like, this drive for vengeance that she had been seeking since season one, kind of, like, she didn't the origins of it were something that, like, she thought was one thing, and then it turned out to be like she had been lied to, and like other people had been lied to. And you know, once you find out something big like that about your past, like, how do you kind of, you know, confront and reconcile that? The end of the the end of the season, last season, was, it was very thought provoking.
Is there like an intensity to D&D that maybe some people aren't? Because it's kind of an impossible thing. I feel like for people to explain D&D because like once you're at the table, then you're like, oh, this is kind of real,
Mm-hmm.
but kind of not. You can't just say like, okay, I throw a tower at somebody. It's not like there are rules, but it's surprising what you can do.
Mm-hmm.
And like watching that dawn on someone is always kind of amazing.
Yeah. Um, I think I you there were so many wonderful descriptions that you put in there. I forgot what the question was.
Oh, I was just like, do you find like that's kind of the charm of D&D, and did you find that to be surprising as well?
Oh yeah, the emotional aspect to D&D, like the kind of the charm and things that you've described. Yes. Um, there are moments when I walk away from the table, like, the what's the word for it? It's like that feeling of like you need to decompress after like a theater performance or a stream or even just a normal game. It's like, that's real. Like, a lot of bleed, that's the word.
Right.
Character bleed from you to your character. Yeah, it's definitely real.
Yeah. Also for dungeon masters, at the end of it, I'm just like,
I get, when I'm GMing especially, I get hungry after my sessions. I could have eaten right beforehand, and I will be so famished
right.
after a stream or a game that I need to go
And
snack.
I will go right for trash food. Like it will not be healthy food. It'll be like, oh, cool. There's a Domino's nearby. I'm not saying
Absolutely.
Domino's is trash.
But you're not going for home cooked meals after a
No,
game
I'm
of
not going
D&D.
for a poke bowl. I'm not in the mood for a
Right.
poke bowl. My body's like, let's just eat cheese.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's definitely a thing that I've always been surprised by, and like the wear and tear that on a dungeon master that can be. So you've done this live in front of an audience, correct? What was
Mm-hmm.
that like?
That was my first episode. My first session with the Rivals was a live episode, and the combined nervousness of playing D&D live in the first place with introducing a new character to this already established roster of characters was terrifying. And everybody was so nice and so sweet, and they were like, "You're gonna be amazing, and you're gonna do such a good job," and we all did. But that doesn't change the fact that like 10 minutes before we went live, I wanted to like crawl under the table.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. There's the live experience, especially if like you're not necessarily a complete extrovert, which I am not. I remember the first time I played D&D live in front of an audience. Kate Welch was DMing, and then I grew quite addicted to it. Even though I had been trained in theater and done lots of theatrical performances, improv live is like, oh, it's like you're funny or you're not.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit scary. It's definitely a lot more personal. How did you get initially into D&D and role playing games and all of it?
Well, it started in high school. I had a group of friends who introduced me to D&D 3.5, and I think we only got one game in before.
Yeah.
Like, it was more fun to build characters than it was to actually like play games. So
I mean,
we built.
speaking of someone with about 200 characters, right? Like that's all
Yeah.
just like I'll log on and just make a character and go to sleep. That's how I go to sleep.
But I also played. I guess my truest introduction to role playing games was playing Baldur's Gate for PS2.
Hmm.
The Dark Alliance. I didn't understand what exactly was going on. It was an RPG. I was killing things. It was great. Well, I didn't understand what these ability score things were, but I guess it's, you're playing the girl who is always the caster, but you also want to be really strong and hit things with a sword. They won't let you do that. But that was my first introduction. And then fast forward to about 4 years ago, when, like I said, my most recent background with D&D is Adventurers League. So I started playing in a comic book shop about 4 years ago, which led to convention DMing, which led to writing, which led to this. in in a too long didn't listen to the whole story. That's basically my progression.
What advice do you have for dungeon masters? Because that's always a big leap when you're like, and I will admit the reason I started dungeon mastering is I had a lot of not great dungeon masters actually, and
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, I think I could do better, or I just kind of like thought like, wouldn't this be a better moment? I think that's true for a lot of people. Sometimes, like you watch a movie and you're like, okay, this movie's entertaining, but I would have done this.
Mm-hmm. Um, my advice for dungeon masters is to, if you're not DMing a written module or a big old book, just kind of base it off of what you know. It's not a bad thing to start small, and whether that be starting, creating the tavern that the adventurers begin in, or the 3-room dungeon that they just so happen to find themselves in. Uh, Kind of just go with what you know. I mean, it's not a lot of people know dungeons, but you've played a lot. You've played Zelda. You've played,
Mm-hmm.
Baldur's Gate. You've played all of these like dungeon crawly games.
Right.
Um, it's just kind of, nothing is original, but you can put your own spin on it. Do
Yeah,
that.
that's really good advice. I once ran lots of games. I did just a series of one shots. And I just based them off movies and TV shows, much like Rick and Morty does. I just was
Yeah.
like, okay, this is the Aliens episode. Then I could just improv the entire thing because I'm like, I kind of know the gist of that. So I just like
Mm-hmm.
replaced aliens with infernal chickens.
Mm-hmm.
Abyssal chickens. And I'm like, that's the plot. And there's one big abyssal chicken at the end. Congrats.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what Tanya has a game that she has created called the Infernal Goose Chase. It's based off of Untitled Goose Game, and at the end of it you fight a big old infernal goose.
Yeah, but I believe my wife was just in that game as Whittle. So she was very happy and very amused. What uh, what was the character creation process like for bringing Dahani into Idol Champions?
um almost seamless. The Idol Champions team had so like all of these ideas for Dahani in terms of her like equipment and things like that that absolutely meshed with my my initial ideas of her. Um Getting to like I the only I'm not gonna say that like I didn't have any input because they brought everything to me and like what do you think of this? What do you think of this? What do you think of this? And but they had already done such a wonderful job with her equipment and with her style and with her like her art that all I had to say was maybe tweak this one thing and she's perfect. Or I think that you know she doesn't like she's not a weapons monk aside from her darts. So we had to kind of tweak things as far as like she started off with quarter staves in her hands, and I was like, it works, but that's not really how she operates. So can we like scale back on the weapons? And it was a fantastic process. I loved every minute of it, and I kind of wish I didn't have Dahani so that I could go through the whole process again.
Yeah, I mean, it is a bit weird. It's like the only thing I can kind of describe it as is like those 80s and 90s montages where you like walk into a store and they just hand you like clothes and like, do you like this or this, and you just pretend like you can afford everything that's happening. Like that's kind of like the Idol Champions of experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Like, here are a bunch of things we think you'll like, and you get to decide, and it's just very weird.
Mm-hmm.
And they have
Mm-hmm.
insights into your character that maybe you didn't even have. Was there one thing that was super important that had to be right?
The paintbrush darts.
Yeah.
That was the one thing that absolutely had to be in the game, because every time that I bring them up to somebody, they're like, "Oh, that's such a neat idea. I've never thought of that." And I'm like, "That's why she's doing." So it was really important to me that the painter's aspect of her and the paintbrush darts were as important as they are to her character. Um, and they got it. They got it so good.
Is there something about the idea of having a character who is a painter, who is an artist, that appealed to you so much?
Yes, I am. I don't paint, but I am an artist of sorts. I do the music thing and the hula hooping thing, and I they are my hobbies are as much a part of me as like my job, my career, my everything. So I wanted that to be reflected in her character also.
Yeah, you have a guitar
I do.
behind you
I do have a guitar behind me.
that I strongly feel can double as a cloud Final Fantasy sword.
Yes, my guitar's name is actually Buster because it looks like a Buster sword.
That's fantastic. What is currently your favorite hobby? Like what is there some is there a through line between all the hobbies that you are attracted to?
No, there isn't. There isn't. If I like, so it's the ADH brain at maximum. All of my hobbies are something that I saw one day and I was like, I would like to do that,
Right.
and then I did it. Um, Music is probably it's my throughest through line. I've played piano since I was 8.
Mm-hmm.
And guitar is just another way to do that. That's not so classical.
Right.
But I my all of my hobbies have in common that they are things that people don't usually do. So I've got hula hooping as a hobby. I also do I flow arts is probably my biggest thing. I hula hoop, I spin poi, I do rope dart, I do staff. I'm just a real life monk.
Yeah, you kind of seem like you are. That was one of my favorite part. I mean, it's a weird thing to say, but one of my favorite parts of the pandemic is like you will just go out into the street and you will be hula hooping, and I'm like, you're. I felt like my Twitter feed had been blessed because it's just mainly like just doom scrolling and then hula hooping. Take a break. I'm gonna hula hoop.
Yeah.
It's very hard to get angry about big hula hoops. You know, the evil hula hoop industry that's corrupting our youth
Right.
these days.
Corporate hula hoop.
They want that money. Yeah, they don't talk about all the. I can't even think of one bad thing that could come from hula hooping. People losing
Right.
hips, right? Like that. We do have a couple questions, and also we very much enjoy questions here. So everyone in chat, please feel free. Thank you for joining
Yeah.
us for this conversation. One of these is more of a statement. Someone said Dahani is my all-time favorite character.
Aw,
That's very
thank you.
nice. We got Obo Lauren, who is in chat as well. Latia doing street dart stuff was amazing. Twitter moment for sure. Statements, not so much questions, but yes, I agree. You are so overwhelmingly positive and energetic. Is why? No, and I mean this because like I actually met you, and you like you're one of those people that gives energy. Even if I'm like melting and falling apart at a con, and like pieces of me are just falling off, you'll show up, and I'm like,
It's,
ah.
it's true. It's true. I physically picked up your arm and brought it back to you before you interviewed me at C2E2.
It would have been accurate, and then I boiled myself in a shower because all of me hurt. It's surprisingly hard to stand for 2 hours. Uh, I always forget.
I don't know. I have always been a very positive person. Probably too positive. Some people might think, but I don't. It is way more energy for me. I can't speak for everybody, but it is way more energy to be mad and sad at the world than it is to be happy. And I'm not saying that like depression and anxiety and all of those like those things that really weigh on you mentally aren't a thing. And I feel those as much or more than some people do. But being happy makes me happy and it makes other people happy. So I choose to do that.
To do the work, to kind of make the effort to find like
Mm-hmm.
a positive. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because it's very easy to doom scroll. I would say all of last year I was pretty much in just the world is ending.
Mm-hmm.
And to a certain degree, it became addictive. Uh,
Yeah.
it's
Like
kind of
you
like when
it's very easy to become addicted to anything, but especially to sadness and to like the negativity because it just keeps pulling you in and it's like I don't like feeling that.
how do you see the difference between live streaming D&D and playing D&D at home? Do you feel like it's more of a hobby when you're doing it off camera? Because there is that expectation, the lights, camera, action thing happens.
um I much prefer it off camera these days. You notice like anybody who kind of follows me notices that you don't see me so much on camera anymore. Mostly because it's like even if I'm on camera, I have to put on pants and I don't want to wear pants. so
Valid.
but it's much more when it's off stream, I'll say, because we're still in the middle of a panini and I can't go to a game store and play D&D, but off stream it's much more my hobby than it is like my job. And I'm beginning to appreciate that a little bit more. And also, no one will yell at me if I choose to leave camera for a couple minutes and get a bowl of food and then
Right.
come back and eat it.
Yeah. It's a more it's a more casual experience. But I think it also lends itself to something like less casual, right? Like I think you can like you're not worrying about like what the audience thinks of like a character choice. Uh, I
Yeah.
have I have played straight up terrible people in my spare time. I'm like, I don't know if I could have done that on camera. Uh, but but yeah,
uh,
there is a freedom there.
there is. And yet, one thing that I have noticed about all of my off-camera characters and even some of my on-camera characters, aside from Dahani, I end up playing lots of buff ladies with spears.
Okay.
Um, to the point where I hadn't even noticed until somebody brought it up. It's like, you're I've run a couple games with you for you know a couple different games, and each time you're strong, independent femme character, uses a spear, uses a glaive, and then I'm like, oh, I hadn't even noticed.
It is a little terrifying when you don't notice those things about yourself. But yeah, I mean, well, spears are actually the most effective. I think they finally said like the most effective weapon in history was the spear.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, like you couldn't. The entire reason a great sword exists is not because like people really wanted to throw a great sword around. It's because they needed to cut down the spearmen and to
Mm-hmm.
break the spears. It's been like a problem since pretty much the dawn of time. Yeah, I love spear characters too. Plus, there are some great feats for
Yeah.
spears, like Sentinels, really good. Just a couple others. Yeah, it's pretty sneaky stuff. We've got another question from Omnis X. What would either of you recommend as a good place to start for a character, rolling the dice, or a theme? Um, for me personally, you'd be surprised what you get out of the dice rolls. Back in the old days, you rolled and then you were like, I don't know if this fits, and I rolled a character that had like high dex and strength, and I made a ranger. That's how I made Aver.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't choose where those points went. I had no
Mm-hmm.
choice, so I was just like, well, this is what you're playing.
Yeah, I think it. Well, I'm sorry, I didn't mean
Oh
to cut
no,
you
no,
off.
no, no! I think there's a freedom in that, but yeah.
There, there is. It depends for me on how I am feeling. A lot of times I have so many themes for characters that don't end up becoming characters,
Mm-hmm.
but also sometimes I like the challenge of rolling straight, just like you said, just like rolling and then taking that number for what that stat is. So rolling the first number and having it be strength, second number having it be dex, and rolling that entire stat block and seeing where your points go, and then creating something from that. So I mean, I guess that is also a theme in its own way.
I think I do have a lot of themes, but I have noticed like sometimes I'll make a character and like maybe it's the first time I play them or the second time, and I'm like I'm just not into this. Maybe I thought
Mm-hmm.
about this character too much um, until I watched them evolve.
Mm-hmm.
That said, I have witnessed my wife Megan surprised me in the weirdest way. She wouldn't tell me the character she was playing. She wouldn't tell me anything about it. And she sat down and then she had a gnome artificer with a New York accent, and I died. I just could not believe. Uh, and she just figured out this character and who this character was, uh, completely and utterly. And I was just so thoroughly impressed. I wish I had put that much thought or effort into any character I've made.
I
Because
was,
yeah.
no, I was gonna say like to that point, Dahani is, I think, the kind of epitome of a bird. She has your typical monk stats, as you'll see if you play her in Idol Champions, but she's got a 7 charisma, which I do not have a 7 charisma.
I would say no. You do not
No,
have a civic charisma.
but what that means is that Latia is the one who starts talking in game, and then Dahani has to make that charisma roll,
Oh
which has
no.
led to some very interesting, like, it's the equivalent of a parrot talking and you don't really know what that parrot is trying to say. She's like, those bird moments just kind of pop out of that 7 charisma, and it's probably the best thing that I like about her.
Yeah, I think there's something freeing in that, like playing non-charismatic characters. Like I've been kind of struggling with the character I want to play next. I do definitely want a departure because I play a character who is like a trickster and a liar and kind of a con man, and as much fun as that is, in the
Mm-hmm.
current world today, I find it not that enjoyable or escape. It doesn't feel like much of an escape.
Right.
I'm a little drawn to King Shark. Do you? And I don't know if that makes me a horrible person, but there is something about low charisma, low a lot of
Low
intelligence,
many
wisdom,
things.
and then just max out strength, dexterity, and con. Do you find that there are some characters that are like a break from yourself as well, that it's like
Yes, absolutely. I don't get to play. I don't get to play her very often. She's my rival's adjacent character, Scoop, who is a kobold trickery cleric
yeah.
and canonical sister to Duo, who is our NPC innkeeper.
Mm-hmm.
But she's very standoff. Like she's not really standoffish, but this is her. This is Scoop right here. She's just kind of into whatever you're into and praise whoever you want to praise. Like she's one of those clerics who's got like several goddess like little deities on her belt,
Oh, I
and she
love
uses
this.
she uses a shovel that she uses as a mace, and it's really great. It's really fantastic. But yeah, she's my charity only character, and I wish I got to play her a little bit more than I do.
I love a trickery domain cleric that has like a couple of like deities. Like they're not necessarily on one. That I have not heard before. It kind of reminds me of that weird moment in The Mummy, where
Yes.
where he's being
Or
attacked by the mummy. He holds up every holy symbol.
every holy symbol he can think of. Exactly.
Which tells you a lot about that character, that he's so superstitious and also so well read.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's so well educated. But he's decided to memorize all of these things that might save his life.
Exactly.
That made that character for me. That moment was like pure gold.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any characters that you've ever found inspiration from movies or television that you're like, oh, I want to play this? It's hard for me to see anything without the D&D lens in my eyes.
Yeah, seriously. Hold on, let me pull up my characters. I don't have as many characters as you, but
Nor should
I've
you.
got
I do not advise it.
I've got a few. No, like yes and no. Most of my characters are puns. I have a Goliath. I think she was a fighter. I don't have her character sheet anymore, but her name was Nora Tennille, and she was a captain. So her name was Captain and Tennille.
Wow. Wow.
A lot of my characters kind of stem from things that I think are funny.
Right.
I have a rogue whose name is Macabre, right? Like macabre, but her name is Macabre 3 times, but you pronounce it differently every single time. So her name is
Macabre.
yeah, it's Macabre Macabre Macabre.
I think I think I made a character that was 3 kobolds, and and there is a character that is 3 kobolds in Idle Champions. But I think I did do 3 kobolds, and they had all ridiculous names, each of them. And I forget what it was, but it was absolutely terrible. It was a trash character concept. But I am kind of like, I do find myself wanting to play more and more fantastical characters that are like just terrible. Like I'm an awakened scarecrow. You know, I would play a sentient sword, right? Because I am getting weirder and weirder with age, I think, in terms of characters. Or
I'd love to play a sentient weapon.
Sentient weapon, I think, would be fun, or a Warforged that actually is like a ranger swarm keeper, and they're actually the swarm.
Oh, they're just a swarm of bees on the inside.
Yeah, they're just a hive. I
I
thought
like
that would
it.
be creepy and fun.
Yeah,
Probably
that would
not
be really
bees because the Candyman screwed me up since I was a little kid.
Oh
So,
yeah, yeah.
like, yeah,
That's
I
fair.
see bees, I'm like, no.
That's fair.
Candyman ruined bees for me. So, uh, Where? How long do you think you're going to be playing Dahani?
Oh, as long as Rivals
I
exists,
saw the
which I hope
tension.
is forever.
You're not ready to say goodbye.
No, not at all. I mean, Dahani is in a way kind of like the realization of what I wanted to do in the D&D community. Like I've told the Rivals this. When I saw that show premiere at Stream of Many Eyes and found out that they were Chicago based, I
Mm-hmm.
was like, maybe. Like I like and this was at a point in my life where well, I'm not gonna say I was nothing, but like nobody knew who I was in the TTRPG community. I was just, running Adventurers League at a comic book store, and Gamehole Con 2018 was months and months away, and um, but yeah, like Dahani is like a realization of a dream.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that we get to play at the Rivals table for as long as we possibly can.
If you had to play any character right now, like what if the worst happened? What character would it be?
Like if I had to bring a new character to Rivals,
Yeah,
I'd probably make Scoop my permanent Rivals
Scoop.
character.
I do already love Scoop. Like it's already hard not to love Scoop. Uh, when so not everyone's done Adventurers League. What is that experience like? And do you have recommendations for people joining into stuff like that or DMing those things? Because it's a little bit different when it's not friends that you necessarily know and you're just hopping in. The thing that
Hmm.
has made me the most nervous is DMing for people I don't know.
Hmm.
That scares the bejesus out of me.
It is a little terrifying. But that's also kind of how, like, I just jumped right in. Like my first time DMing was for the people who I went to Adventurers League with, but choosing to then go 30 hours of games at Gamehole Con my very first year was, I don't know, I must have been on something. But I love Adventurers League as a start to DMing, to playing. It's the program has evolved a lot since in the last year or so, but I think it's easier than ever to just hop in. Like you build a character with point buy and you pick a module that you want to run, and you sit down and you play. And that character stays with you. I think in a sense it's almost a guarantee. It's more of a guarantee than a regular campaign that you will take a character from level 1 to 20
Mm-hmm.
to grow with that character and see all of the things that that character does. Um, it's as an Adventures League DM, I feel like it's a little bit easier because the adventures are kind of like it's a condensed version of running a hardback.
Yeah.
Um, so you have everything that you need in a 30-page module that you can use to run 2 to 4 hours of content, and it's also Adventures League, so everybody kind of knows what to expect. There's not a lot of pressure on you.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a fantastic way to either, get your D&D fix in or jump in or start for the first time.
It's an interesting question. We got Nan Breadloaf. I have a tendency to hyperfocus on my characters. Do you ever feel your connection to characters slipping when you make new ones? It's interesting.
Ooh, that is an interesting question. Um, Sometimes I will I will become so enamored with a new character that I may want to. It's that new car smell.
Yeah.
Yeah, you become so enamored with a new character that you want to play them all the time to the detriment of your other games or other characters. Yeah, I think at that point I have to kind of remember why I'm playing the characters that I'm playing,
Mm-hmm.
and realize that each one of them meets a particular need that I have in my creative life.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a good question though. I've never I've never really thought about that before.
Yeah, and sometimes like I mean, I will say like I think everyone's experienced it to some degree. You start feeling like your character is arcing out, and
Hmm.
yeah, I play the same character since I was 8, but I feel like that character is arced out a bit. Like I've gone to meet all these people and play this character with like Patrick Rothfuss and Chris Perkins and everything else. I'm like, there's not much this dude can do anymore.
Right.
uh, or memories that can accumulate, and then I will like literally watch the Suicide Squad, and I find myself liking the pettiness, and I do like petty characters. I think all paladins should be petty, um, but like Idris Elba's character in there as Bloodsport, having this petty kill kill fight, like kill
Hmm.
show off moment, and also King Shark just eating people alive. I'm like, that looks fun. I think I want a character. I want a character who's like really petty or not so smart or very hyper focused.
Hmm.
I do find my eye being drawn away because it's hard playing because these are roles that we are playing.
Hmm.
I don't know if this has happened to you, but and it is kind of the curse of a dungeon master playing their character. Typically is pretty detrimental, whether on purpose or not. It can be an issue, especially if they like explode a star destroyer and destroy a moon by themselves. Have you ever had an NPC that you're like, I kind of am falling in love with this NPC, where I would like to play this NPC outside of this game?
Um, I have one NPC that I have created that has it hasn't really resonated with the community so much. I don't know if I would want to play them, but
Right.
I like them. Um, when I for my season of Rivals, I built a an artificer in a wheelchair named Zephyr, who works at the Temple of Gond and helped uh build the body for our brain in a jar, because of course we have a brain in a jar.
Of course you do, like you do.
Yeah, like you do. Um, so I love him very much and would die for him, but I don't know that I would want to play him, and not just for the reasons that I am an able-bodied person and they are a person in a wheelchair, but I I would be afraid of anything happening to him while I am while I am in his shoes.
I gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, I've had a few NPCs that I have. Like, I have one that I always attempt a Bane accent. I saw a piece of art a long time ago of a wizard with his robe open, basically, like out in the chest area, and had like all at this is like 80s, 90s art, D&D art, and he's just like ripped. I'm like, why is this wizard so ripped? This makes no
Muscle
sense.
wizard.
Yeah, so just a muscly wizard, and so I made a character with the Bane voice who is that ripped and like oils up every day and like lifts weights, and intelligence is kind of their dump stat. They are the world's worst wizard. And I just kind
I
of
like that.
was charmed by that character. Plus I'll listen to Bane's voice all day long. I'll watch The Dark
Mhm.
Knight over and over again. um, but yeah, I have found NPCs here and there to be a bit too charming. I don't know if that translates though into a good player character experience.
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
the audience might get tired of that. I have a villain who I absolutely love, who was like a super evil genius Moriarty type, but boy, you can't really play that character.
Mhm. Mhm.
Who you routinely surprises you on Rivals of Waterdeep?
Um, I'm gonna go. He's gonna hate me, but Brian Gray, Urban Bohemian, one of our newest cast members.
Yeah,
Um, Rivals was his kind of return to the hobby after many, many years away, and I am continuously impressed at the way that he and his characters have evolved. It is difficult to get back into D&D after a long time. It is even more difficult to get back to D&D with a level 14, 15 character right off the bat.
yeah,
And that's where he and Eugenio had to start when they joined us. Um, but the I have loved watching him grow at the table. Um, he's one of my favorite people in the entire world, but he's just the way that I've watched him grow as someone who as a player who didn't really like combat. I definitely like gave him a combat maybe 3 or 4 episodes into my season. Um, but to just kind of watch him discover what his sorcerer is like as a fighter, and then to watch him take the reins as a co-DM this season when he's never DM'd before. Um, I it's great.
What is it that you love the most about Rivals of Waterdeep?
The people that I play with. In like absolute, like I could sit on a Zoom call with them for hours and hours and hours, and we wouldn't even have to play D&D. Um, I love that we're not combat focused. We're trying to tell a story, and if combat just happens to happen as a part of that story, we'll roll with it. But we we are just a bunch of people playing D&D, telling the story that we want to tell, and having a really good time doing it.
What's that like for you? Like, what is your role in that group, do you feel, as a
Oh
character and a
man.
player?
Um, well, I mentioned as a character, Dahani is a utility fighter whose focus is to clear the field and make sure that somebody is standing next to our rogue so that they can sneak attack. Um, as a player, I honestly don't know. I've never thought about it. Um, it's an interesting you said that I'm a very positive person, and I absolutely am, but like I'm pretty quiet in our green room, you know, or like on in the after call where we just kind of like hang out with each other, because now that we're not all in Chicago anymore and there's a panna cotta happening, um we can't go out for brunch like we used to. So we'll just sit in the Zoom call afterwards, and I'm pretty quiet. So I honestly couldn't tell you what my role is in the group. I am the beacon of positivity. That's what my role is. I make sure everybody feels great about themselves. I've
What's
just
your
said it.
what's your best advice in general?
Oh gosh. Do what you want. That's legitimately, yes. I mean, as long as it doesn't hurt anybody else, and as long as you're remaining true to yourself, do what you want, because that's what got me here. I wanted to I wanted to run games at conventions. I did that. I wanted to write adventures. I've done that. I wanted to work in this community, and I'm doing that. So, like, do what you want, find a way to make it happen, as long as it does not like hurt anybody else. Because everything that I've done, I did it because I wanted to do it.
Latia, thank you so much. It was really great hanging out with you.
So good to talk to you again. I miss you so much.
I miss you too. We should not have needed an excuse to hang out.
Right. Look, when things clear up, Seattle is absolutely on my list of places to
It's
be.
a pretty cool place to go. The darkness is coming though. Soon it'll be just rain for 6 months. But yes,
I like rain though.
rain's lovely. I love the
Yeah.
rain. Yeah, I agree. Thank you so much, Latia. I am very excited for your
Yeah.
character joining Idle Champions. So
Thank you. I'm excited too.
thank
We
you so
got
much.
4 days together.
That's exactly it. And thank you everyone for watching at home and everyone who participated in chat. Have a great day. Bye.